Hey now, good Monday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dorzinski. He's Dan Lucero, and we're here with you for 2 hours today on the program. We are off at 5 o'clock today because the Royals are on the East Coast down in Miami, hanging out with Pitbull and the cast of Burn Notice. And we're off early 4 of 5 days this week. Done at 5 today and tomorrow. We're done at 4:30 on Wednesday. They've moved up that Royals game an extra half hour. And then we're done at 5:30 on Friday. So, shortened week here on 580 Sports Talk, but we are happy to be here with you talking Royals, Chiefs, NFL, some college basketball, some big college basketball news today. In fact, locally, we'll get to all of it coming up over the next 2 hours on 580 Sports Talk. We'd love for you to chime in, be a part of the show. Text line is open. 785-272-9429 is that text line number. And, of course, you can follow along on YouTube as well. The name of our YouTube channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Comment section's wide open, so go subscribe to the channel, head into the live stream, and you can jump into the comment section with the rest of the group. We've got plenty to get to, as I alluded to. Royals baseball, they win yesterday. All right. They lose the series. Not so great, but I think there were some positives you can take from the Royals for every game of the series. Did you enjoy your time at the K, Dan, the last 2 days?
Saturday, yes. Sunday, a little less so. But I suppose all is fair. You know, my wife got to enjoy seeing her team win on Sunday. And I got to enjoy seeing my team win on Saturday afternoon. Oh, it was fun. It was fun. Well, I'll dig into that part of it a little bit more in when we do Good, Bad, Ugly here in a little bit. But no, pleasant weekend. Good crowd, good. As far as who we were sitting by at the K, particularly Saturday. So, yeah, we had a good time, and I did. I have to say that I did enjoy that series probably more than most of our listeners did. I can't remember the last time Colorado had a winning trip to Kansas City.
A winning road trip, period. How nice is that?
Or no, not a winning road trip.
Road series.
Yeah, I'm talking about just a road series. Winning road trips, yeah, not a thing. But winning trip to Kansas City, I think that's probably their first ones in at least a decade.
Hey,
so
how about that? So we will talk plenty of Royals baseball coming up here in just a moment. Also in this first of 2 hours today, we'll recap the whole weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and talk all things NFL with Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. A lot to get to in the National Football League today. We'll take a look at some Big 12 news and notes today. We were going to look just entirely at what the Big 12 landscape kind of looks like after this offseason. Most of the big-name transfers are off the board at this point, which is a good thing for some programs and not a good thing for some other programs, including possibly one in our own state. So we'll talk about that and the Big 12 overall coming up here in a little bit. Plus, this has been all but confirmed by several credible reporters at this point, but it sure sounds like KU and Wichita State are going to have a date with each other coming up this non-conference season this December. We will dive into that coming up a little bit later on today. We've got What Is Wrong With You. We'll get to some 580 Sports Talk headlines today. Busy weekend from the NBA and NHL playoffs. Some other KU news today. We will also talk about Norma Hunt, the matriarch of the Hunt family, the only woman to have gone to all 57 Super Bowls. Norma Hunt passed away this weekend at the age of 85. What a life lived by Norma Hunt. So we'll talk about that, too, a little bit coming up in our 580 Sports Talk headlines this afternoon. Again, text line is open. Comment section is open as well on YouTube, and we appreciate you guys in advance hanging out with us to talk all things sports, Chiefs, Royals over the course of the show today. And let's start with those Kansas City Royals, Dan. They lose the series to the Rockies, 2-1. They win yesterday, 2-0. And I think, as I mentioned a moment ago, you can take something positive from every game in this series.
Most of it, the starting pitching.
Yes.
I think that was the biggest thing for this weekend, that the starting pitching was really good. Now, my vantage point in sections 310, 311 at Kauffman Stadium maybe didn't give me the best perspective on like where Brady Singer's pitches were landing or where Daniel Lynch's pitches were landing on Saturday. But I know this: you don't get 7 strikeouts in 5 innings or 5 2/3 in Singer's case if you're not executing some pitches, if you're not getting into good counts and really executing your stuff. And so I think that when you add in the fact that Lyles struck out 8 in his 5 on Friday, and some of this is the Rockies lineup is not good. Like, and it's not even like the best version of itself right now. Like, their all-star CJ Cron is on the injured list. Chris Bryant's a proven guy. He's on the injured list. They're missing some guys, and they're running some rookies out there, but still, you got to execute pitches. And for Brady Singer in particular, we can work backwards here, but Brady Singer in particular, being able to work into the 6th inning, keeping Colorado off the board, and doing so, it appeared, again, my vantage point a little different for these games than it usually is watching them on television like most of the rest of you, but it appeared that it was his ability to locate the fastball and the slider was the difference for him. When he can do that, when he can spot those pitches where he wants, that's when he can get a called third strike. That's when he can get a swing and miss. When he hasn't done that, he hasn't missed like competitively, if that makes sense. Like, his misses haven't been competitive misses where you still might get a swing and miss, or you still might, maybe it drifts over the middle of the plate, but you get a called strike. The Singer has missed like too tight to left-handers in particular. He hasn't been very good against left-handers. The Rockies' hottest hitter going into the weekend was Ryan McMahon. He struck him out twice. So that tells me that was really sharp from Singer. His ability to locate was better and up to the standard that we saw him meet start after start last season. I thought that was a really big step forward for him. I was a little surprised they didn't let him try and work his way out of the 6th. I get why. They had a lefty coming up, Nolan Jones, who was 2 for 2 against Singer to that point. And so they went to the bullpen for Taylor Clark, and Clark got Jones out with a runner on to keep it 1-0 at the time. And he was at 95 pitches too. There had been a rain delay. Like, I understand it, but still, the ability to finally get into the 6th inning, and that was very needed from Singer, because you want to see these guys start getting deep into games, especially guys like Singer and Lynch. So, again, just starting with Singer, I thought that was probably his most encouraging outing of the season.
Yeah, good to see. And I agree with you about not being able to finish that 6th inning, but I'm also at a stage where I feel like beggars can't be choosers. And hey, you get 5 2/3 scoreless out of Brady Singer, only a few hits, struck out. You got a complete, not a complete game in terms of 9 innings, but a complete performance from Brady Singer. I will happily take that. And the good too, from earlier in the week, you lost the game on Friday, but Jordan Lyles gave you a chance. He gave you an opportunity to win that game. The Royals just decided not to play offense. They just said, nah, we're good.
Yeah, the 2 solo home runs were all they got on Friday night, and then the 8th inning, things kind of melted down. It was a little bit of bad luck for Hernandez. One, that the blister opened up and hurt him. But obviously it's not too great an impact because he's on the bump today. He's going to be the opener today with Mike Myers, the Bolt guy, behind him as they open up in Miami. But not just the blister being bad luck. They get the 2 runners aboard, Colorado does, and then Prado makes a great play to hold the runners, and it looks like, hey, they're going to have maybe a chance to get out of it. And the next batter hits another ground ball, and Lopez has a chance at a play. Unfortunately, it was the only Rocky who could have scored from third on that play, happened to be on third base.
Yeah.
In Brenton Doyle, he's their fastest guy, and beat it by an eyelash, and then the inning kind of sort of melted down from there. It was unfortunate. They brought in Whitgren. I don't really know why they would bring him in a spot where the game is tight. I understand you got to use everybody. He's on the big league roster. You got to use him, but that was not a great spot for Whitgren, and the Rockies tuned him up pretty good. They're familiar with him. He's been a National League guy. So I think that probably helped. They jumped right on him and blew that game open on Friday. But for Lyles, it was a fastball up in the zone that was really effective for him on Friday night, and throwing it up in the zone with confidence, getting a lot of swings and misses. Again, this is not a good offense that he was pitching against. Not Murderer's Row. Let's not get too excited about one good 5-inning outing from Jordan Lyles, but it was a positive.
He didn't get his ass kicked, and that's really all you can ask
he
for.
left with the lead, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've got a chance for a win in Jordan Lyles' start for the first time all season. We're still waiting. 0-12, still waiting.
just seems impossible. That first one's going to be wild. It really is. The other one, too, that is notable, Saturday, the line doesn't look great in the box score for Daniel Lynch. 5 runs, 3 earned. The first inning did not go well. The error hurt. But, look, he's still ramping up. It was just his second appearance back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
He went 5 innings, had 1 tough one, 4 really darn good ones. I mean, innings 2 through 5, he was great. So, again, it's when you consider that this team, the wins and losses don't matter because this is a year about development and this is a year about this new regime figuring out who is worth keeping as we continue to progress through this rebuild. That is good to see from Daniel Lynch. You got to see the stuff. And we talk about stuff with him the most or often because you and I have agreed on this before that among that, some of them aren't even all that young anymore, but that young 2018 crop of pitchers, 18-19 crop of pitchers, his stuff has always just looked the best. And he has the stuff that is most like a top of the rotation starter. And we got to see some of that at least for 4 innings.
Yeah, he's got the fastest fastball of that group and the more viable mix. I mean, Brady Singer at this point looks like he's a 2-pitch guy. Like he's barely throwing the changeup. So he's back to kind of being a 2-pitch guy. And it's hard to be really good as a 2-pitch guy. Those 2 pitches had better be upper crust elite. And Singer doesn't have an elite pitch in the arsenal. He's got like a slightly above average fastball, and he's got a decent slider that can be really good on a good day. It's hard for him, hard for anybody to be ace level with 2 pitches unless those 2 pitches are like watch Spencer Strider pitch and you know what plus pitches look like. Like to use one example. For Lynch, he's had that 4-pitch mix, and early on in the outing, it wasn't like he was giving up a lot of loud contact, but guys were, barreling the ball and hitting line drives, putting the ball in play into the outfield. And what appeared to switch, again, my vantage point different on Saturday, but just watching like the scoreboard to tell me what kinds of pitches that Lynch is throwing, it felt like he got really reliant on his off-speed stuff in the final 4 innings, and that was effective for him. We talked earlier in the year, we referenced a gentleman named Lance Brodzowski, who does a lot of research on pitchers. He's worked at Driveline, which is a pitcher developmental, laboratory, for lack of a better way to put it. That might be the best way to put it. But we talked about Lance Brodzowski's work, like identifying pitches and some of the work he does in terms of stats and analysis with pitchers a lot earlier this year when he was the first one to point out, hey, something's different about Chris Bubich. And unfortunately, the Chris Bubich renaissance was short-lived, but he was the first one to kind of see, hey, this is interesting about what Chris Bubich is doing. Well, he had some thoughts on Daniel Lynch on his Twitter account at Lance Broads, B-R-O-D-Z, and noticed that Lynch is throwing his slider harder this year, which has given it a little bit more backspin, a little bit more cut to the pitch, and that he has had some success with it. 32% swing and miss rate against the slider. Granted, it's only 2 starts, but that's really good. If a third of the time you're throwing a pitch, batters are swinging through it. Brodzowski also points out, unfortunately, that the fastball is not a good pitch for Lynch right now. He's only getting 11% swing and miss on the 4-seam, and he's giving up a lot of hard and fly ball contact with the 2-seam fastball, or with his 4-seam fastball. So the lesson for Lynch, and I think he kind of adapted on the fly to it on Saturday, was his off-speed pitches are going to be the ones that get him outs. And he almost needs to pitch off of those more so than he needs to pitch off his fastball. So it will be really interesting monitoring Lynch moving forward, what his pitch mix looks like. Does he start more counts with slider, with curve? He threw fewer fastballs than he did in his first start. Slightly fewer, 35% compared to 37%, 38% in his first start. The pitch that actually ticked up in usage the most was his curveball, which 5% to 8%, not a lot there, but slider usage stayed consistent. Changeup was a little up. He threw some good changeups, I thought, to Colorado's right-handed hitters that were in the lineup against him. I thought it was a decent step in the right direction for Lynch, and I'm really interested to see how that slider continues to be maybe a weapon for him earlier in counts, because if your fastball's not real good, you don't want to throw it so often.
Right. I'm encouraged by what we have seen so far. And I think listen, if you haven't followed Lance, what is it? Brodzowski.
Yeah.
I was going to say Brodzinski. If you haven't followed Brodzowski stuff before, I I am taking the data we have from him before when he was right on about the improvements for Chris Bubich, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt when breaking down Daniel Lynch as well. So, no, I'm very encouraged, and I've been a big Lynch fan ever since he came up. Obviously, it sucks that he's been out for so long this season because of the injuries, but if he is starting to figure it out, he's able to go a little bit further into games, he gets more acclimated to things, very encouraged about where he's going, feeling very good about that. The downside from the weekend, the offense was really bad. Like, the game on Friday, you had the two solo home runs.
Two solo homers, not much else going on against journeyman Chase Anderson and the Rockies bullpen.
They had one at bat the entire game with runners in scoring position. Not even just one hit. They had one at bat the entire game with a runner on second or third base. Not good. Not good at all. Vinny, 0 for 10 for the series. Not great to see out of him. He was pretty good in the previous series. He had a couple multi-hit games. Did well against the Cardinals as well, specifically. But
hit a couple balls.
They only played 2 series last week because of the stupid double off day. But yeah, he played well against the Cardinals. But
hit a couple balls hard yesterday at people. I don't think that he looks like he's lost or like he's fighting something. He did hit into the double play early Saturday, but no, it was a bit of a funky series for him. The one guy that I do want to talk about, and Christopher brought this up in the YouTube comments. Thank you, Christopher. Bobby Witt Jr. had a nightmare of a baseball. As harmful a 3 for 5 as you can have as a baseball player. Like, you look at the box score. Oh, Bobby Witt Jr. went 3 for 5. That's a solid game. Well, three singles. That's nice. Got picked off at third. Got picked off of third base by the catcher, which is like one of the all-time no-nos.
Yes.
And it happened right in front of a 2-out, what ended up being an RBI single that might have given the Royals a chance to catch up further in a game that they had to rally from behind. They were down 5-0 before they swung the bats, ended up losing by 2. So that run, pretty important. And, that 5-run inning precipitated by Witt mishandling what appeared to be, I don't know that they would have turned the double play. I don't want to call it a tailor-made double play ball, but they would have had a chance at a double play, and Witt got a little too ahead of himself, and he didn't make the play. We had talked earlier this year when it comes to Bobby's defensive improvement, how much better he's gotten at making the routine plays. He didn't make that play. It would have been routine to at least get one out at second base.
Right.
And then that inning looks different. Lynch's outing looks different. The whole game looks different. It was a bad day for Bobby Witt Jr. They were not shy about pointing that out in the ballpark. The grumbling natives getting a little restless with Witt's play on that particular day on the Royals radio network on the drive home. That was pointed out a little bit as well. Just a bad game for him on Saturday, and that was disappointing. Then he wasn't productive, but then again, really nobody other than Michael Garcia with his first big league home run.
That's cool. Good for him.
Yeah. I thought for a second they were going to take it from him. It was hard to tell from my vantage point.
Yeah.
They did not show a great replay.
Shocking.
Yeah, like, whoever's on the replay on Crown Vision, like, show more replays. Show, like, the pitches that lead to strike 3. Like, I like seeing replays of strikeouts on the big board.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to show that so hitters can't see. I don't know what the reasoning is, but I would like to see more replays on Crown Vision. Please and thank you.
No, that's a fair critique. I think that's entirely fair. Starting tonight, Royals Marlins. It'll be down in Miami or Miami Gardens, wherever it technically is. Miami, not bad this year. 32 wins in their first 60 games. Not a bad spot for them to be in. They'll throw Braxton Garrett tonight. It'll be an opener for the Royals. Carlos Hernandez will start things off. Mike Myers will follow. It's Greinke versus Jesus Luzardo coming up tomorrow. And then Jordan Lyles and Edward Cabrera coming up on Wednesday. Without looking, do you know the combined record of the 3 official starters for the Royals? We'll have to count Hernandez, not Myers, for this, but the combined record.
Hernandez, Greinke, and Lyles?
Yes.
Okay, so Lyles is 0-6. Greinke is 1-6, so 1-12. I do not know Carlos Hernandez's record. So I'll guess 2-14.
Greinke actually slightly better. He only has 6 decisions. He's 1-5.
1-5. Damn.
Lyles worse. He's actually 0-9.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got a full 9 decisions now.
Didn't know he had 9 losses.
Yeah. So the Royals pitchers are a combined for this series 1-17.
Yeah.
Carlos Hernandez 0-3. Starter or reliever, it doesn't matter.
I thought he might have had a win in there. Oh man.
Yeah, Greinke.
They're hard to come by when you've only got 18 of them as a team.
Yeah, that's tough. Don't know that we'll have time to do a watch this week, or not this week, but today, just because short headlines. They stink again. They
just got broomed by the Marlins.
You know what's very funny? The concept of the A's having a home field advantage. No one goes to their games. Absolutely no one. There's like 3,500 people there on a good day, and yet they took 2 or 3 at home from the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, and then turn around, get swept by these same Marlins. Luis Ariz is back up to 390 batting average.
Insane.
Had 3 hits yesterday.
He got so close to a home run the other day. Ball hit like 3 inches short of the top of the fence.
For those wondering, the A's are now 12-49.
Dude.
That is a 197 winning percentage. They are on pace. 31.8 wins.
Oh, my God. It could be worse, Royals fans. It could be, in fact, at least 6 games worse at this point. First pitch tonight for the Royals and the Marlins is set for 5:40. Pregame begins at 5 on the Royals Radio Network right here on 580 WIBW. We've got to get to our first break of the show. On the other side of this timeout, we'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And Matt Verderame is going to join us to talk all things NFL later on this hour. All that is coming up on this first hour of a shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk. Time to recap the weekend. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, I'll let you go first. What was your good from the sports weekend?
You know, We've had a lot going on. My wife and I, we've been really busy. She, wrapping up the school year. We're getting ready to redo our bathroom. So we've had a lot going on. So this weekend almost kind of felt like a fun little vacation, and we really enjoyed ourselves. We went to the two Royals Rockies games Saturday and Sunday. Saturday we went into Kansas City early. We went to lunch at Arthur Bryant's. We went to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, which Abby had never been to. We did not know that the Juneteenth parade was scheduled for Saturday, right down 18th.
Wow.
We did not know that. So we literally walked right into the parade, not in the middle of participating in the parade, but we just happened to show up and there was a parade. So that was kind of fun. We enjoyed a little bit of the parade, and we enjoyed the Negro League Baseball Museum. My wife really enjoyed that, not having ever been. Went to the Rocky game, Rockies Royals. Rockies won on Saturday, so I enjoyed that. Then we went out to dinner in the plaza, dinner and dessert in the plaza, and it was really fun. It was a really fun date day with my wife. And then Sunday I got to do it again. We went to Slaps for lunch. And
your favorite?
I think that might be Abby's new favorite.
Ooh.
I think she was a real big fan. She really liked Slaps. So we went to Slaps for lunch, and then we went to the ball game, and Kyle Freeland was perfect through 4 innings. And then it started to rain a little bit. And as for everything that happened after that, stay tuned. Brendan.
My good. It ended in unfortunate fashion today. Stanford lost to Oklahoma in 9 innings. For those who don't know much about college softball, it's a 7-inning game, so they went into multiple extra innings. Stanford ends up losing to Oklahoma. 51 consecutive wins for the Sooners, including 2 over Stanford down in Oklahoma City. But I want to give a shout out to Topeka's own Nyjah Kennedy, who, despite ending up with 2 losses in the Women's College World Series, here was her stat line in 3 appearances: 1 start, 2 relief outings. 17 innings pitched, 9 hits, 2 walks, 3 earned runs, 22 strikeouts against 3 games in the College World Series, 2 of which came against arguably the single best team to ever play the sport, this year's Oklahoma Sooners. They have not lost now in 106 days. They've won 51 games in a row. They have the best record in the history of women's college softball. And that was Nyjah Kennedy's line. She is a freshman. She ends the year with a .57 ERA. 0.57. Ended in unfortunate fashion, but what a week for Nyjah Kennedy. Really a long weekend at the Women's College World Series. That's my good. That is an unbelievable performance for a freshman. Any other team in the country, Stanford, that they played other than OU, Stanford's playing for a national title. Unfortunately, there's a lot of times to make a comparison in baseball. Yeah, his teammate, the 27 Yankees. No, this Oklahoma team kind of is. That's kind of what they are.
Yeah, what are they now, 59-1 after they won?
I believe so. Or 58.
58. Ridiculous. Whatever. I mean, come on, man. That's almost 60 games. You've only lost 1. Just stupid. Ridiculous.
It's insane
how good they are. The bad, everything that happened after the rain came on Sunday. Only got a little wet. We were in the shade. But Rockies got shut out. I didn't enjoy that at all. And then I really didn't enjoy game 2 of the NBA Finals last night. We got to talk about it. We'll get to it maybe a little later on. I don't want to talk about it, but we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you do the playoff roundup. You do it when your team loses too. But deeply, deeply annoying to lose to a team that's playing like a Horizon League team in the NCAA tournament. We're going to jack 43s in play zone. It's gross. It offends me as a basketball fan. And yet, the Heat have home court advantage in a best of 5 now. So nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, we'll get to it in the playoff roundup. I have a thought on the coverage of the NBA Finals in a moment too. My bad. And it's more of a sad more than a bad. I touched on it at the top of the show. Norma Hunt passed away yesterday, or the family reported it yesterday. 85 years old, the widow of the late Lamar Hunt, who we know is one of the most important figures in the history of American football. One of the founders of the AFL, obviously founded the Chiefs. Norma Hunt, the mother of Clark and the rest of the Hunt family. The current generation of the Hunt family anyway. 85 years old. She attended all 57 Super Bowls. The only woman to have that title of visiting all 57 Super Bowls. And that, since that is the case, that will never be done again. That will never happen again. An incredible life, an incredible football life. Nothing but positive things said about her from the Hunt family, obviously, from the greater Chiefs family, and from people around the NFL. Roger Goodell even put out a statement about her yesterday. An incredible life worth lived. So not a bad, but definitely sad that Norma Hunt, the matriarch of the Hunt family, passed away at 85 years old.
And as a texter points out from the 913, it's good. Glad that she got to see one more Super Bowl championship for her beloved Chiefs before she passed away. My ugly, we kind of touched on it early. This will sub in for A-Watch today. The A's are 12-49, man. 12-49. Texter from the 785 says the Oklahoma softball team is the anti-Oakland A's. That is extremely true. I kind of think that Oklahoma softball would have their way. Like Jordy Ball would strike out 17 Oakland A's in 7 innings.
They would set their highest attendance mark of the year if they played the Oklahoma Sooners in Oakland. They absolutely would. Those Sooner fans will travel. You ever been to a Big 12 football game? You know Sooners fans travel.
Oh, yeah.
They play Boomer Sooner 9,000 freaking times. You think about it in your dreams for the rest of the year. My ugly, this is like a very online take, and I get that. But just the discourse and the chatter and the opinions about the NBA finals, really the NBA in general, but these finals in particular, it just sucks. Like, I thought it was cool that the Heat won because I like this Heat team. They're not especially pleasant to watch, but I like the people on the team. I like Eric Spoelstra. I still think the Nuggets are going to win, and I still frankly think they're going to get it done in 5 games. But, okay, cool. You got an even series. You have a little drama. Awesome. But it goes all from 3 days ago. It was, this is the most boring finals ever. Oh, the Heat are trash. Maybe we were all wrong about Jokic, yada, yada, yada. To now, the Heat have figured it out. They have solved the Jokic problem, and they've solved it by making the best player on earth score 41 points. Like, can you hear yourself talk? This is on ESPN. This is on other networks and websites and all over. Like, they've turned him into a scorer. He had 41 and 10. That's not the burn you think it is. That's not, we solved it. No, the Heat are shooting 49% from 3 in these games, and that's why they won. If they shoot, you flip the 3-point percentages, the Nuggets win by 3 possessions. Yeah. Like, it's okay to just say, like, it was a fun, well-played game. The Heat shot well. Michael Porter Jr. was horrible, and that's the game. Like, that's okay. You don't have to suddenly make stuff up.
Yeah, well, when there's 72 hours between the end of one game and the beginning of the next.
It's boring. Like, that's boring to just always have the loudest yell about something. It bores me. Figure it out. You guys have more money and airtime than anyone else. Figure out how to come up with better analysis. We've got to get to a break. You want good analysis about the NFL? You talk to Matt Verderame. We will next on 580 Sports Talk.
Let's go with your money now.
Matt Verderame covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated. That's where you can find all of his work, along with SI.com. And you can follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. And he joins us every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk to talk about the NFL. What's going on, Matt? How was your weekend?
Going well. How are you guys?
We're doing well. We are doing well. Thank you so much for asking. And let's jump right on into it because there's plenty to get to today. And we'll start on a little bit of a somber note, but the matriarch of the Kansas City Chiefs family, Norma Hunt, she passed away this weekend at the age of 85. The only woman to have gone to every single Super Bowl, all 57 of them, as we noted during our last segment. Very cool that she got to see one more championship for her beloved Chiefs before she passed away. Matt, I know you are a buff about NFL history and specifically the Chiefs, the team that we all care about. Do you have a thought, just a final condolence for the Hunt family or for the incredible life of Norma Hunt?
Yeah, I think. Look, when you talk about history, you talk about NFL history, pro football history. Obviously Lamar Hunt is a name that's always synonymous with being one of the most influential people to ever be involved. Created the American Football League in 1960. 10 years later, there's a merger with the NFL. He coined the term Super Bowl. But while certainly Lamar belongs on that Mount Rushmore, if you will, I think Norma Hunt, when you really look at how if you read about her life and the NFL's put together some nice pieces about her, not only in death but also before she passed, thankfully. She had a big influence on Lamar, of course. And I think when you talk about people who were impactful in the league's history, I mean, Norma Hunt's right there. She had an enormous, say in some of the different things that the NFL did early on with in terms of Lamar's thinking. And, while she never held an official position on the front office or something like that, or an ownership stake, I think what needs to be noted is how important she was in helping the creativity, the innovation of Lamar, who obviously, was somebody who everybody who's ever been affiliated with the NFL is aware of his impact on the game as well.
I wanted to ask you about some stuff on the field as well from a Chiefs perspective. Last week, you wrote a piece over at SI.com, Matt, about 10 veteran players who could still switch teams this offseason, and a Chief was on that list. It was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, I'm not surprised he landed on the list because it does feel like he has fallen out of favor. I mean, he lost his starting job. He got hurt last season, too. He didn't have a role in the postseason or in the Super Bowl at all. Where do you think is a fair option for him in terms of a landing spot, and what do you think it would take to get him from the Chiefs roster?
In terms of what would it take to get him, a 7th round pick, maybe a 6th. It wouldn't take much. I think the one thing that would help his cause in terms of staying on the team, the Chiefs just aren't going to save much by moving him. I mean, financially speaking, they're not going to get a lot back. He doesn't have a big cap hit. They're saving, a nominal amount of money. I think that the thought would be if you're going to move him, it's really just to get a draft pick, or to free up a spot on the roster if they like somebody in camp, the third back. Because the reality for Edwards-Helaire, he is not going to be a top 2 back of this team. I mean, barring injury, it's just not happening. Pacheco and McKinnon are just clearing away the 1-2 punch on this roster. And so, if you're the Chiefs, if you're Brett Veach, if you can get a 6th or 7th rounder, why not? Why not do it? Even if you end up using that pick to move up, in the upcoming draft, maybe it's a pick you can flip to move up 4 spots, something like that. So at this point, what's more valuable? I would argue the draft pick, even if it is just to move up a few spots, because barring injury, Edwards-Helaire's not playing. And the other side of it is he's been hurt a lot himself. Like, even if they need him to step in, can he do it? Can he take the ball 200 times? I don't know that he can. So, look, I don't think it's a sure thing he's gone, but I think if they could move him, they would absolutely do it.
Our guest is Matt Verderame, covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated. He joins us on the Fleming's Place Wine and Spirits hotline, as he does every Monday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Check out Matt on Twitter at Matt Verderame and his work online and in print with Sports Illustrated. Matt, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of transactions that one of the main threats to the Chiefs' AFC supremacy has made in the last little while. The Buffalo Bills have been busy. First off, a 4-year, $68 million contract extension for defensive tackle Ed Oliver. Do you think he's worth that much? Are you surprised by that? Or are you figuring that was about what Oliver should have expected to receive?
That was a healthy contract. His agent deserves a lot of credit because Ed Oliver is a good player. Ed Oliver is not worth $70 million a year. I mean, I don't know. I am yet to come across one person in the league, and in full disclosure, not that I sat here and sampled 100 people, but in the handful of people I did talk to, I don't know anybody who felt like he was worth that amount of money. If you're the Bills, like, why not just play out the year and see how it goes? His career high in sacks for a season is 5. That came in his rookie year. He has never duplicated that. For his career, I believe he's 14 sacks across 4 seasons. He's been decent as a pass rusher, pretty good inside against the run. I'm not saying he's not a good player. He would help out any roster in the league, but I don't know that. Like, when you're paying that much money, you're paying for a guy who is a Pro Bowl level player. Maybe he doesn't make the Pro Bowl every year, but he's that guy who's in the conversation year in and year out. Ed Oliver's never been in the Pro Bowl conversation. And my concern with Buffalo, and I wrote a piece that hasn't come out yet for SI about this, is the Bills have spent a lot of their money on guys who you look at them and go, either they're aging, they're into their 30s or about to be into their 30s, and they have a lot of years left on their deal, or they're guys like Ed Oliver and Dawson Knox, who the Bills just paid a fortune to Knox last year, and they just drafted a first-round tight end. And they just paid a huge sum of money to Oliver, and he's a guy that not one offensive coordinator is circling and saying, we got to stop him. So at some point, they have to draft a little bit better. And I think that's why they're paying Oliver, because, frankly, if you look at the last 4 or 5 drafts, who else are they paying? Maybe Gabriel Davis, maybe Greg Rousseau, but they're starting to get old, expensive, and, frankly, I thought that contract was aggressive.
The Bills also added a free agent acquisition to their pass rush, signing Leonard Floyd to a 1-year deal. 3 straight years with 9+ sacks for Floyd with the Rams. How much does he have in the tank, and how much does he help the Bills?
So, this signing I do like for them, and I praise them for this. I think it's a good signing. But my only question with this is, who is he taking snaps away from? Is this a situation where, hey, Von Miller may not be ready for the start of the season, and so if he's not, now they can kind of ease him back in, and when he does come back, they can rotate Miller out and kind of keep him fresh for the playoffs? If that's the case, love the signing. Floyd's a good player. He's a guy who can get you 10 sacks. He, frankly, to me, and I've said this all season, the Bills need a pass rusher. They don't need DeAndre Hopkins. They need to get to the quarterback. So I think this is exactly what they need. I really like it. My only concern is if they take away snaps, because they need to develop young talent. They have to. They have a dearth of it right now after really a pretty mediocre 4 drafts in a row here. That would be my only downside, is if they just say, okay, we're going to play Floyd and Miller all the time. Rousseau's going to see a 20% reduction in his snap count. That would bother me. But as long as that's not the case, I think it's a really nice signing for the Bills.
Just a few more questions for Matt Verderame, NFL writer for Sports Illustrated, as well as SI.com. And you can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. One player who could be available, I guess technically he already is available, but a player who could be a free agent soon potentially is Dalvin Cook, running back for the Minnesota Vikings. There's been a lot of chatter over the last couple of days, really the last couple of weeks, Matt, about Cook being available, falling out of favor with Minnesota. He's been a little bit banged up. But he's also run for over 1,100 yards each of the last 4 seasons. He's only going to be 28 this year. What is going on with Cook in Minnesota, and why has he sort of fallen out of favor with the Vikings?
I think this is a situation where Minnesota's looking at this and saying, you know what, it would save a little bit of money, move it toward next year, start to reinvest in a defense that last year was absolutely brutal. Now they switched coordinators. They went from Ed Donatella to Brian Flores. I think that's a heck of an upgrade, but the talent level is not there right now defensively. Harrison Smith is older. Danielle Hunter's probably your prized player on that side of the ball, but you need to really start to shake things up over there. And so maybe they look at it as, okay, look, if you move on from Cook, can you roll over some space? Can you reinvest on the defensive side? That being said, Dalvin Cook's a really good player, okay? If you move on from Dalvin Cook, I know the idea is, hey, Madison's here and Alexander Madison's a good player. That's fine and well. He is not Dalvin Cook. I wonder in a way if the Vikings aren't just trying to get ahead of a rebuild that's coming. Because, look, Cook, for a running back, and you mentioned the last 4 years, has been excellent. One of the best backs in football. He is starting to get toward that scary age of 30. Cousins is in the last year of his deal, and you talk to people around the league. There's a thought that Minnesota might bring him back, but also it's kind of going to have to be on their terms, and that's always a dangerous game to play when you talk about a quarterback. You start wondering, is this going to be a little bit of a soft rebuild in Minnesota? I don't think it's going to be a tear it down to the studs thing, but it's just going to be a little bit of a, all right, you know what? Let's start to kind of clear the books, clear the decks a little bit, give ourselves some extra space. I think that might be where this thing's headed a little bit.
How dangerous is that then if you're Minnesota? Because they really don't have a long-term plan at quarterback. And I mean, we everybody in the world knows what Kirk Cousins is, but they've got too much talent to be awful. So they're not going to end up with a Drake May or a Caleb Williams next year. Who knows about the year after that? How risky is that to try to do this soft rebuild when you don't have either an elite quarterback already or really a succession plan there?
Scary. It's scary. And I think that's why a lot of teams, frankly, that's why we see teams pay $45 million to quarterbacks who the second they sign the contract, they're like, that guy can't win a Super Bowl. I mean, not to rag on him, but Daniel Jones. There's not a person alive who saw the Giants sign Daniel Jones for $40 million a year. Well, you know what? That's good. That'll put him over the hump. Like, they don't want to go into a rebuild. They don't want to go backwards. And so I would guarantee you the thought in that building is, try to get him 10% better, make him the best version he can be, and in the meantime, backfill by trading up in the draft. I mean, I think what the Chiefs did with Mahomes. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get Mahomes every time. If that was the case, every team in the league would be doing what the Chiefs did. But I think that's probably what Minnesota needs to do, right? Like maybe you bring Cousins back for another year, which, again, talking to people around the NFL, I don't think there's any certainty by any stretch of the imagination. Should they do that? Then, like in this draft, you make a move up from, let's just say, 21st, 22nd, move up to 10, move up to 9. The key is you've got to hit. You've got to hit on, like when you do that, you've got to be right. And so I think that's where teams get a little bit nervous. And they say, well, you know what the safer route is? To just sign Daniel Jones for 4 years. And, that is the danger in this. If you're wrong or if you can't find the right trade on draft night, you're always stuck in that purgatory, and that's where a lot of teams find themselves as the years have gone on.
For all of Matt Verderame's coverage of the National Football League, head to Sports Illustrated's SI.com. Also check him out in the magazine, and you can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Monday at this time. Matt, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you next week.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
That's Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Awesome insight into all things National Football League. I also didn't get the Ed Oliver contract, to be honest with you. Remember when Ed Oliver was in college? Remember when he was at Houston?
I thought he was going to be an unbelievable NFL player. Like maybe a transformative NFL player. The fact that he dropped as far in the draft as he did, I guess that should have been a tell. But at the time, I thought it was like the heist of the century when Buffalo was able to draft him where they did. I thought he was going to be an unreal NFL player, and he's a good one.
Yeah, he's a butt. I think Matt said it well. He would improve your roster if you added him to your team. But we would like to add him as a defensive tackle, and there is Aaron Donald. And Ed Oliver did not quite live up to those Aaron Donald takes from his few years in Houston. We've got to get to a break for the national and local news. When we come back in the 4 o'clock hour, a bunch of headlines to get to. We'll talk a little Big 12 hoops, and we've got our first What Is Wrong With You of the week. All that is coming up in the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk.
Looking for something to do today?
Hey now, 4 o'clock hour of this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk. Just getting started. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. We're off at 5 today because the Royals have an early game out on the East Coast. 5:40 first pitch, 5 o'clock pregame against the Miami Marlins. We'll send you to the Royals radio network once this hour comes to a close. Coming up this hour, we'll talk some Big 12 basketball, including big news for KU and Wichita State today. Yes, it is what you think it is. Plus, we've got our What Is Wrong With You, and we'll get to our other 580 Sports Talk headlines for the day. A lot to get to. We'll get through as many as we can. But before we start off this hour, get to any texts, get to any topics, Dan, we've got a severe weather update.
Yeah, I figure we should pass this along from the Capital Federal Weather Center. The National Weather Service issuing a severe thunderstorm warning for central Shawnee County until 4:30 p.m. At 4:01 p.m., a severe thunderstorm was located 4 miles southeast of Silver Lake, moving west at 10 miles per hour. Radar indicating 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Hail damage to vehicles is expected. Expect wind damage to roofs, siding, and trees. Locations impacted include Topeka, Dover, Silver Lake, and Willard, including Interstate 70 between mile markers 347 and 355, and the Kansas Turnpike near mile marker 177. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of the building. Again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning for central Shawnee County until 4:30 p.m. Central Time, including Topeka, Dover, Silver Lake, and Willard. We'll keep you posted.
Thank you for that. And yes, please, as always, make sure you're taking every precaution possible. Let's get to the, first, actually, we're going to get to Big 12 basketball in the news for KU Wichita State, but I did want to mention this. So the Chiefs are at the White House today.
Yes.
They didn't get to go after Super Bowl 54. You may have noticed we had a global pandemic.
Yeah, there was that little hiccup in life at the time that kept them from making a more traditional White House visit.
I know the Associated Press was streaming, actually, the visit. I know President Biden speaking right now. Carlos Dunlap, Patrick Mahomes, among others, have been posting pictures on their social media of the White House trip. And that includes Carlos Dunlap, posting a picture of 4 guys walking to the White House from the non-Chiefs bus. Chad Henne, Andrew Wiley, Eric Bieniemy, and Marcus Kemp did not get to ride with the rest of the group.
Oh, man.
They came on their own, which is very funny. I imagine EB and Andrew Wiley, they probably carpooled.
Well, Juju's there, too. What bus they make him come on?
I don't know. All I know is that Carlos Dunlap on his Instagram story posted non-Chiefs bus with multiple crying, laughing emojis. And then Chad Henne, Andrew Wiley, Eric Bieniemy, and Marcus Kemp.
Well, Dunlap's technically
He's
right now
on the team.
Not a Chief. What bus he come on?
Maybe he was with them and he just walked ahead and took the picture.
Okay,
I don't know.
That could be.
Frank Clark is there. We know that. This is cool. It looks like they got damn near everyone to be there, which is awesome. That doesn't always happen.
No, it doesn't. Sometimes there are scheduling conflicts. Sometimes there are ideological conflicts. There's a recent history of that. But no, it's especially for the guys who had the opportunity and then didn't get to go in 2020. To have the opportunity to be honored in that fashion this year is pretty neat.
President Biden said the Chiefs are building a dynasty, and then Andy Reid said nobody believed in us before. I'm sure it's going to be that same way this time, and we'll come out and prove them wrong. I'm going to have to disagree with Coach Reid on that one. I think literally everyone at this point believes in the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't know. You get to play the nobody believes in us card 2 Super Bowls into a 5-year run.
That's an interesting take. But other than that, looks like a fun time for the Chiefs today. Let's get to the news. So this was initially reported by our guy Michael Swain over at fog.net on the VIP paid section of that website. It was then reported more publicly by friend of the program, former 580 Sports Talk host Pat Strothman, who works down in Wichita now, and Taylor Eldridge of the Wichita Eagle has confirmed this. But on December 29th, that is a Friday. What is with this Friday stuff? Friday, December 29th, KU is going to play Wichita State at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Now, according to Eldridge, this could be the first of a 3-game series. However, a contract has not yet been fully worked out. So they will play at least one game, maybe this becomes something more. It'll be the first regular season game between the two programs since 1993. KU won that game by 49 points for what it's worth. But the last time they played was the NCAA tournament back in 2015, which Wichita State won in St. Louis. Also from Eldridge, another interesting wrinkle is the potential of having the NIL collectives essentially host the neutral game in KC, which would allow the collectives to distribute proceeds from the game to the players. Both sides are exploring possibilities there.
That sounds new. That sounds like a thing that maybe hasn't been explored before.
Yeah, that sounds like really pushing the envelope. For what it's worth, yes, I'm in favor of that. Like, if you're going to pay to go see Hunter Dickinson deserves a cut of that or whatever. I have no problem with that, but that does seem brand new. This is good. This is absolutely a good thing. I personally need a reparative experience for March of 2015. I think a lot of KU fans feel the same way.
The day that Evan Wessel outplayed, oh gosh, what was his name? The guard did the dunk that one time. His uncle was in the crowd. What was the guard?
Wayne Selden.
Yeah.
It didn't go well.
So I that was around the time I was on that particular side of that whole conversation. So for those who do not know, and maybe there are some who do not, my first exposure to the state of Kansas professionally was I did morning drive sports talk in Wichita from 2013 through the end of 2014. So the start of that 2014-2015 season that ended with Wichita State lost the Sweet 16 to Notre Dame, I think it was, but they advanced to the Sweet 16 by beating Kansas that year. And during this time, because obviously 2013, Wichita State goes to the Final Four. In 2014, Wichita State goes undefeated and gets the worst draw in the history of the NCAA tournament, loses to that absurdly talented 8-seed Kentucky team by 2 points. And obviously 2015, they make a Sweet 16 run. So these are the salad days of Wichita State basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And much is made at that time in Wichita about why won't the in-state schools, the Big 12 schools in state, play Wichita State? They're ducking us. You know, there's a lot of that from the Wichita State side.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Greg Marshall, who never shied away from a microphone and never shied away from making, comments that would stir some things up.
Oh yeah.
Would always say, hey, we'll play him. We'll play him anywhere. We'll play him anytime. We'd be happy to play him. And Bill Self would kind of always demur.
Mm-hmm.
And it was obvious as to why. There was nothing to gain for Kansas by scheduling a regular season game with Wichita State at that time. There was no positive benefit to that for Kansas. That's a game that if you win it, great, you're supposed to win it. And if you lose it, then you got a host of problems. Even against a good Wichita State team, look, I just want people to understand when you go and you look at Kansas, or you go and you look at Duke, or you go and you look at North Carolina, like the blue bloods of college basketball, they are not scheduling heavy hitting mid majors. Like that's not a thing that they do.
No,
just as a general habit. So this is not a uniquely Kansas thing or a uniquely Bill Self thing to not play the really good mid majors in November and December. That's just, as a general rule, like if you're going to schedule tough games, it's going to be against Power 5 teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be against Power 5 teams because those teams generally have higher RPIs. Like there's all kinds of reasons for it. It wasn't, KU's ducking Wichita State. It is, however, a little funny that they are playing them now when Wichita State basketball has been, let's say, laid a little low. This is not the salad days for Wichita State. Those days seem very far away for Wichita State basketball. They got a brand new head coach in Paul Mills that I think is going to do good things there.
I think so,
there
too.
is no reason, given the history, the tradition, the fan support, the financial support in that city, there is no reason that Wichita State basketball cannot be a consistent front runner in the American Athletic Conference. That's why they fired Isaac Brown, because what the way that they backslid in the last two seasons under Brown it's not acceptable for Wichita State basketball. They're not meeting the standard right now. I think they can get back to, if not the 3-year run they had 13 through 15 with that group of guys, which includes, an NBA All-Star and 3 guys who end up playing in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, you could even extend it out to like 2016, 2017 when they had like Landry Shamet. Like, that is a period of time that's a golden era for Wichita State. Maybe that's not the expectation, but they should be good, and they should certainly be better than they have been. And it's interesting to see that now is the time that Kansas is like, oh, yeah, we'll play that game. Because it also coincides with last year, Kansas State deciding, oh, yeah, we'll play that game. We'll play that game now.
Yeah.
It just, like we did get Kansas, Wichita State. That wasn't a great Kansas team, to be frank, in 2015. Good team. Not one of the great Bill Self teams.
Agreed. No, agreed.
That was obviously pretty damn good Wichita State team. Maybe not as good as the 2 years prior, but still second weekend NCAA tournament team. So we got to see those teams match up when Wichita State was at their heights. But now that Wichita State's fallen off a little bit, both in-state schools were like, yeah, this is a game that actually does make sense for us to add to the schedule. I hope that it goes great and that, well, only one fan base in each game gets to be happy, but I hope it's great turnout. I hope it's great fan support. I hope it's the kind of game that makes both sides say, hey, we should do this more often.
See, that's the part that I am the most curious about, I think. If you're going to make this a series, are you playing all 3 in Kansas City? Because that, to me, doesn't make quite as much sense. I also assume, the KU game at the Sprint Center has been a KU home game. The T-Mobile Center has been a KU home game. They put the Jayhawk at center court, right? And they have the band and all of that. The wording from Taylor Eldridge here indicates that this is at least a quote-unquote neutral site game. So does that mean that this is an annual event at the T-Mobile Center? Does that mean they're going to do one game at T-Mobile, one game at Allen Fieldhouse, and one game at Intrust? As much as it'd be awesome to play this game at the Roundhouse, if they put one in Wichita, there is no chance they put this game at Coke Arena if they played in Wichita.
Well, part of it is Wichita State knows they can sell 15,000 tickets for that game.
Yeah, and we actually, Jake and I looked at this earlier today. 5,200 seats more in Intrust than at Coke Arena.
Yeah, it's over.
Seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's 10,000 at the Roundhouse. It's 15,000 at Intrust Bank Arena. Yeah, I think Wichita State, to get the game, they would move it. Like, that would be a Wichita State decision more than it would be a Kansas saying, "Oh, we're not playing in your building." Yeah. No, that would be Wichita State knowing which side its bread is buttered on.
This is something that I think should happen more often. The in-state matchups. I think it is a good thing. There's only 3 Division I programs in the state. It's not like, this isn't like North Carolina says we're going to finally play all of our in-state teams that aren't in the ACC. We're going to play all of them. North Carolina has 17 Division I teams. Like, you couldn't do that because you literally could not fit them all into your regular season. KU and K-State already play each other twice a year. You can play Wichita State more often. I think that's fine. I think that is a good thing. And I hope they make it a series.
I do too. It would be fun. Like, we call the Governor's Cup, or not that, obviously, that's taken, but like you could have
you could turn it into something.
Yes,
though.
you could absolutely turn it into like a traveling trophy if you played the series every year. I don't know, like in Philly, they used to have the Big Five, right? Where LaSalle and Villanova, Temple, Penn, and who else?
They added Drexel, St. Joe's.
Yeah, St. Joe's. Yeah,
they added Drexel back in.
Yeah.
So now it's, I think, still the Big Five, but there's actually 6 teams, and they play a different schedule now.
Yeah, and they don't do it all at the Palestra anymore. So it's
lame.
It's a little different. But like, they used to do the Big Four in North Carolina back in the 70s with Wake Forest, North Carolina State, Duke. Like, an in-state college basketball series is very tantalizing and a lot of fun. And I think if you're Wichita State, you want those games because you want to be able to test yourself, and you want to be able to get back to, because that is where Wichita State, like, okay, are they going to be Kansas, like, historically, like winning the Big 12, Final Fours, all that? No, they're not, obviously. But Wichita State fancies itself a program that should be a top-tier mid-major basketball program. And they're right. They should be that. Every single year, that's what they ought to be.
And more than even pedigree and tradition, you know why they should? And this is kind of the dirty part of college sports, but it's true. How many teams in the American Athletic Conference have a donor group like the Cokes.
Right.
Precisely zero. Like, the only argument you could have made previously was Houston, because they've got Tillman Fertitta money.
Mm-hmm.
And Tillman Fertitta, as we talked about when we talked about NHL expansion the other day, has a lot of money, an ungodly amount of money. The Cokes also have that. Do you know how many other mid-major programs can charter their basketball teams? Pretty much none.
Yeah, it's not many. Outside of the Power Six, there's not a whole lot living the way that Wichita State could live. Now, they got to get their NIL ducks in a row. When we've talked about Wichita State basketball, a big part of the reason why they've taken a step back in terms of not just recruiting, but keeping guys on campus. I think they have a ton of guys transfer out of that program. And some of it was, it turned out, Greg Marshall, not a great guy, it seemed, allegedly. Not really treating his players all that great, allegedly, and that's part of it. But even in the last few years here, last 2-3 years, when it's been Isaac Brown at the helm, they've had a lot of roster turnover because they haven't had a real good NIL system in place. And given because it's not just the coach, right? Wichita's got money, man. There's money in that city. There's aviation dollars. There's obviously the Cokes. Like, there is significant interest. And those companies, those corporations that are down there, big Wichita State fans.
Because it's the only game in town.
Yes, it's the major league team in Wichita, which is not a small city. 480,000 people. It's 3 Topekas. Like, Wichita State basketball matters. And there's no football to compare it to, which is the other thing. So for Wichita State's perspective, them not having their NIL ducks in a row was completely embarrassing and completely a mess that was avoidable if they'd had a better AD and more of an idea of what they were doing from the executive suite. Perhaps now is that time, and they're ready to get their NIL ducks in a row, and they're ready to start recruiting at the level that enabled them to be a Missouri Valley Conference powerhouse and enabled them to be really good in their early transition to the AAC. That is my hope, because I think it's a lot of fun when Wichita State basketball is good. That arena gets rocking. They make tournament runs. Like, I dig Wichita State basketball. I want them to be good. I think it'd be awesome if all 3 teams in Kansas were perennial NCAA tournament teams. Entirely possible for me. There's no reason that shouldn't be the case.
Wichita State's not afraid to play up. Last year, I'm looking at their schedule right now, they played 3 high major teams. They played Missouri. They got Missouri at home, in fact. They played in Manhattan against K-State, and they took on Oklahoma State as well. They got Oklahoma State at interest, in fact.
That was second half of a home and home.
Yes.
With Oklahoma State for sure. I think they might have been on the first part of one with Mizzou and just started one with Kansas State.
I think you're right. Right on the front page of their basketball website, it talks about how they have a series scheduled with DePaul. I understand DePaul sucks, but it's a Big East program. Like, they are willing to play up. If you're KU and K-State, you've been playing 13 non-conference games a year. Well, now you only have 12 with an opening because the Big 12 SEC Showdown Challenge, whatever it's called, that's gone now. Thank God for that. So if you're KU and K-State, there is a very easy way to rationalize, we're not playing Kentucky or Florida or Ole Miss or Tennessee anymore mid-January, but we've got that open game. This is decent competition. It'll be played in our state. Apparently, if there's stuff you can do with the NIL, that's appealing. That benefits everyone. And frankly, it's not like KU, well, K-State maybe, but KU and like Wichita State aren't battling for recruits most of the time, right? So you can live with both sets of players taking a cut. This would be the perfect time to set up a full-time series with this. Now that KU and K-State have that extra opening. Sounds like that's going to happen. The schools will announce it eventually, but a lot of credible reports coming in. KU versus Wichita State, December 29th this year. Let's get to a timeout here on 580 Sports Talk. On the other side of this break, we've got the first What Is Wrong With You of the week right here on 580 WIBW. On a shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk today, but we're done at 5 o'clock. We've still got plenty of time for What Is Wrong With You, our first of the week. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends at Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications, which saves time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. I will go first with our stories today, Dan, and I'm going to take us to Spring Hill, Florida, where the Hernando County Sheriff's Office said a woman attempted to rob a Wells Fargo bank and then made the investigation quite easy to solve. So according to the Sheriff's Office, at 12:30 this past Wednesday, a woman later identified as 31-year-old Vanessa Ortega came into the bank holding a bright blue object in her left hand that allegedly resembled a firearm. The Sheriff's Office said Ortega then raised the object in the air and yelled, "This is a robbery. Give me all your money." Can't do that in a bank. Ortega then allegedly went to the teller window and said she was only joking, then withdrew cash from her own bank account and left the bank. When detectives arrived, bank staff said they could identify Ortega because she was a regular customer at this branch. Detectives also identified Ortega because the Sheriff's Office said they had previous law enforcement contacts with her. She was arrested at a separate scene where deputies were called to a disturbance. She just couldn't stay out of trouble, I guess. The Sheriff's Office said Ortega told deputies she entered the bank with a Nerf-style gun, not even a real, like an on-brand Nerf, she had off-brand Nerf, and admitted to yelling, "This is a robbery, give me all your money." She allegedly told deputies she was just joking about the robbery part. She was arrested and faces 2 counts of attempted robbery with a weapon and was given $20,000 bond.
Yeah, you don't get to like wave something that looks firearmish in the air and say, "This is a robbery," and then be like, "Jokes."
Just kidding.
I'm joking. Like the old guy eating the burger in that I Think You Should Leave sketch. I'm joking. No, not how this works.
Yeah, apparently this woman like thought it was cool, like thought she was pals with the tellers at this bank, that she could just come in, joke about a holdup, and then take out her money and things would be fine. You can't do that. That is not acceptable anywhere. That's my What Is Wrong With You for today.
That is wild. We got another robbery story from Florida today. We got not just a double Florida day on What Is Wrong With You. We have a double robbery day.
All right.
On What Is Wrong With You. We have a man arrested Saturday after a bizarre robbery at a phone repair store in Miami Gardens, where he was caught on camera stealing merchandise while wearing a cardboard box on his head.
Hell yeah.
The owner of iRepair Tech in Miami Gardens shared the video that showed the man sporting a cardboard box on his head, shattering the glass displays and reaching in to grab the phones. The incident happened around 4 a.m. Saturday. But Jeremias Berganza, the store's owner, was watching the surveillance video and saw the man's face. Why did he see the man's face? Because the guy took his box off his head. Like, I've got 2 links in the show notes, Brendan. There's another link here from the New York Post that shows the picture of the guy looking down at his stolen phones, and the box is very clearly like off his head.
Good.
Like, lifted it up. Like you might like, you know, like if you took off, your helmet on and you might take it off and like lean it kind of back on the back of your head and get a drink or something like that. Yeah, that's what our guy did here. He just took the cardboard box off real quick just to kind of check on the his
Oh
loot.
man.
So
that is so funny.
Berganza, the store owner, asked people to let him know if they saw the suspect, and in time found out the culprit was at the same plaza drinking with his friends at a nearby liquor store. Berganza called police, and the man, 33-year-old Claude Vincent Griffin, was later arrested, charged with grand theft, burglary, criminal mischief, cocaine possession, and resisting an officer without violence. According to Berganza, the thief stole 19 iPhones and $8,000 in cash. $15,000 robbery, and he might have gotten away with it too. Like, we might be talking about the box bandit today, but no, he took the box off so he could see, presumably.
Oh man, that's really stupid. That's good.
It's like a box, it's like a white cardboard box.
Yeah, it looks like he just got a delivery at his home and thought, "Oh, I know what to use this for." He's reduced reusing recycling.
Yes. And so he's looking straight down, like underneath the box flap, to be able to see like what he's doing, because he smashes in the glass case and he's just taking these phones and putting them in a bag. And then at one point he's like, well, maybe I should get a closer look. And he just kind of removes the box.
Oh my God.
Of course,
that's really funny.
And of course, the security camera's in 4K. So
of course it is.
You see this guy. Oh yeah, he's down there. That guy over there. Same shopping center. I don't know. Maybe leave the scene of the crime.
This is tough. These are two good stories. So we've got entry number one, the woman who fake robbed a bank that she is a regular at and then claimed it was a joke and took money out of her own account and then got arrested while committing a disturbance elsewhere the same day. And then a guy who committed a robbery with a box on his head, which is already dumb enough, and then took the box off so he was readily identifiable. Wow, this is a great day. Who's your vote today?
Man, the guy had his head in a box. Like, I really think that other woman is very stupid to be like, joke of a. I'm gonna play a funny joke. I'm gonna make these poor bank tellers think they're being robbed by armed robbery. Armed robbery, funny joke. Everybody will have a great time and laugh about it later. No.
Yeah. Man, he had a box on his head. All right, I'm going to go with box head.
The box bandit.
Even before we get to how dumb it is to take it off and to be caught in the same place. You tried to, couldn't stop at Kohl's and get a ski mask, dude.
Nope.
You couldn't stop at the Ross, get something to cover your face. Some eye holes.
He found a box. That's as good as anything.
Oh, my God.
Rolling in with a box on his head.
Do we know where the box is from? Was it labeled? Like, did he get some treats from Chewy for his dog? He had a Chewy box on his head. I wish.
I don't think you can tell what exactly what kind of box it is. It's got like a shipping label on it.
He was drinking with his buddies at a nearby liquor store. Unbelievable. Yeah, the box bandit gets my vote today, too. Imagine you're at work and some dude just walks in with a box on his head. Even before he steals anything, you're thinking, man, I wasn't even supposed to be here today. Why do I have to deal with this? That is our winner today in What Is Wrong With You, the Box Bandit. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. Top City Metal Supply right here in Topeka on South Topeka Boulevard. Let's get to a break. We've got plenty of 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up next on this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk. We're done at 5 o'clock today because we've got an early Royals game. They're on the East Coast taking on the Miami Marlins tonight, first of a 3-game set. 5:40 first pitch, 5 o'clock pregame on the Royals Radio Network here on 580 WIBW. So, to end this shortened show, let's get to some 580 Sports Talk headlines, shall we? A lot going on in the sports world. We already talked about the biggest KU news of the day, but let's get to some other Jayhawks-related news. That's how I'll start off our headlines today. Kansas unveiled the first 12 games of its non-conference basketball schedule for this year earlier on today. You can see the full schedule, by the way, non-conference, over at our website, 580WIBW. It's right on the front, 580WIBW.com, I should say. It's right on the homepage right now, right in the center of it. KU's got one exhibition. I get why KU and K-State are down to one exhibition because they like doing those secret scrimmages where they work against other teams, other high major teams. I get it. Kind of sucks. I kind of liked having the two exhibitions against MIAA teams, but hey, what can you do? So KU is going to play Fort Hays State in an exhibition on November 1st. That's a Wednesday. Then the following Monday, KU will open the regular season against North Carolina Central, the Eagles of NCCU. That is coming up on Monday, November 6th. KU also, their home non-conference slate. They will play the Manhattan Jaspers on Friday, November 10th. They end up taking on Eastern Illinois, the Panthers, November 28th. They get UConn at home, part of the Big East Big 12 battle. That'll be on Friday, December 1st. December 5th, UMKC comes to Lawrence. December 9th will be the renewal of the Border War. Missouri will be at Allen Fieldhouse on Saturday, December 9th. And then December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas, that's a Friday, KU will play Yale. The only true road game that KU has before the start of conference play is at Assembly Hall and against Indiana on Saturday, December 16th. KU also will play a neutral site game against Kentucky at the Champions Classic, which is in Chicago this year. And in November 20th through 22nd, KU will be in Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii for the Maui Jim Maui Invitational. I don't know if you've seen the field for this year's Maui Invitational yet.
It's real good.
It is awesome. Chaminade is back. Chaminade's in the field. Love that. Kansas, Chaminade, Gonzaga, Marquette, Purdue, Syracuse, Tennessee, UCLA. One tournament with all that firepower. That is one of the deepest preseason tournaments I have ever seen. You're going to have multiple preseason top 10 teams in that tournament. Kansas, maybe Gonzaga, possibly Marquette, almost certainly Purdue, all are going to be preseason top 10. That is a deep Maui field, and that is your preseason or your non-conference, schedule for the Kansas Jayhawks. Also from Kansas basketball news, Chris Johnson, who is was, I guess, the second highest rated recruit in this year's Kansas high school recruiting class. He has asked out of his national letter of intent from Kansas. He was supposed to move in on Saturday. Most of the new players for KU moved in on Saturday. Hunter Dickinson, the other freshman, a new walk-on by the name of Justin Cross. They all moved in on Saturday. But Chris Johnson was nowhere to be found. And then it leaked out that day that he asked to be let out of his letter of intent by KU. Apparently, he actually asked earlier in the week. Don't know if it was about McCullough returning. Probably not. Don't know if it was about Arterio Morris transferring to KU. Probably. But that leaves KU now once he is let out of that, because no one ever gets held to that. Eventually, everybody gets out of their letter of intent. KU will be down to just 10 scholarship players. Don't know who they might be targeting to fill that 11th spot, but we will ask Michael Swain about that tomorrow.
From some KU basketball to a K-State football great on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot released today by the National Football Foundation. College Football Hall of Fame ballot for 2024 has 78 players and 9 coaches from the Football Bowl subdivision and 101 players and 32 coaches from the divisional coaching ranks. And one of those 78 players from Division I FBS, if you will, the great Terrence Newman, all-time great Wildcat, unanimous first-team All-American in 20 2002, won the Thorpe Award, was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year that year. Also was first team All Big 12 as a specialist that year. The second Wildcat in history to score on a kickoff and a punt return in the same season. Could probably have been a two-way weapon along the lines of Charles Woodson had Bill Snyder been inclined to use him that way, but instead he was just an awesome cornerback who played for a very, very long time in the NFL. Great player, absolutely worthy of being in the College Football Hall of Fame. The thing about the College Football Hall of Fame ballot, though, is there are 78 guys on it.
Yeah, and you can vote for 12. If you are a voter, you get 12 names, which is plenty. I don't even know how you start to choose on this list, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like you end up leaving guys off who were like two-time first-team All-Americans, won major awards. Like you can put Justin Blackmon in right now, two-time Blitnikoff Award honoree, but is he one of the best on this list? Like Eric Bieniemy from Colorado is on this list. Mark Carrier was a two-time All-American Jim Thorpe Award winner. Kajana Carter was a Heisman Trophy runner-up. Tim Couch was first-team All-American. Ken Dorsey won a national championship. Warwick Dunn is on here. Larry Fitzgerald is on this list. This is just, I'm not even getting a half of these guys scrolling down the list. Steve Hutchinson, unbelievable offensive lineman. Pro Football Hall of Famer. You're obviously going to put him in the College Football Hall of Fame. Marshawn Lynch is on here. This is also the list that makes me feel really old, that these guys are all eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, you know what's funny about that, though, mentioning Steve Hutchinson? Because I mean, he deserves it. He blocked, or at least one of the quarterbacks he protected is going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but not in the College Football Hall of Fame. Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Because Brady's not going to go to the College Football Hall of Fame. He was good, but he wasn't transcendent. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. It's wild. Like, yeah, these guys are Julius Peppers, great college career. Antoine Randall L was an awesome college player. Alex Smith was an awesome college player. He's on the ballot this year. Terrell Suggs, 24 sacks in a college football season. Ridiculous. He's on this ballot. Michael Vick. Like, you're not going to have a College Football Hall of Fame without that guy.
Yep. We didn't even mention Kellen Moore, who has won more college football games than literally anyone ever as a player.
Among the coaches eligible this year include Frank Solich, Mark D'Antonio, Larry Coker won a national title, and Tommy Tuberville. That'll be an interesting conversation, I'm sure. Among the players from the FCS and lower divisions, there is one player with Kansas ties, former Bethel wide receiver Ed Smith, who was a first-team NAIA All-American in 1985 and holds 13 school records. The most notable name probably one of the most notable names, I shouldn't say the most, because, again, this list is 100 guys long. Danny Woodhead, former Chadron State running back, two-time Harlan Hill Trophy for the best player in Division II. I can't imagine that's not a College Football Hall of Famer. But, again, there's so many guys on these ballots. Like, who was it? Tommy Frazier had to wait like 5 years to get in.
You only get 4 votes from what they call the divisional players, the small schools.
And I already owe Danny Woodhead an apology because I say he was the best, most notable player on this list. That is totally false. Randy Moss. Sorry.
Yeah, Randy Moss obviously deserves it. I saw another one on here right now that Armonte Edwards.
Oh, man, he ruled.
Who
Appalachian was State.
Yeah, App State, he became a wide receiver in the CFL. Actually, had a really nice CFL career. He was one of the best players in 1AA for a dynasty at Appalachian State.
But yeah, congratulations to Terrence Newman. I don't imagine he will have to wait long
Hopefully not.
to get into the College Football Hall of Fame, but it is, as they say, an honor just to be nominated.
Yeah. I don't know how you vote for this. 78
right?
names.
You have to get that down to 12. It's preposterous.
Yeah, that is outrageous. Next headline for me, this came up in the YouTube comment section a little bit earlier on today, so shout out to Vance for bringing this up. But this is significant, especially locally. But the Prairie Band Potawatomi, this is the headline from the Topeka Capital Journal author Andrew Ball, but the Prairie Band Potawatomi have been okayed for sports betting, but this court case could change the game. That is the headline from the Topeka Capital Journal. Essentially, the Cliffs Notes version is this. The Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation, located north of the city of Topeka, their territory, when they operate, obviously, the Prairie Band Casino, they have gotten the green light from the state under sports betting legislation and amended sports betting legislation to begin operating sports gambling protocols. Essentially, I don't know what word to use there, but they are allowed to start offering sports wagering via the casino, and the other tribal casinos in the state will be allowed to do the same thing. Now, this has been worked on for more than a year at this point. We remember it was over a year ago that sports gambling officially became legal at the state-owned casinos in Kansas. Well, now the tribal casinos are going to get their chance to dip into this as well and offer sports gambling opportunities. Now, this will include, assuming nothing changes to current federal law, we'll get to that in a moment, they would allow the tribal casinos to offer online sports gambling as long as their operations and, where the app is centered or the website or just all the operations have to be on tribal land. But as long as it is, you'd be able to, in the city of Topeka, bet through Prairie Band's app or, the 7th Street Casino in Wyandotte County, something like that are tribal owned. That is a good thing. And as Vance brought up in the YouTube comments, sounds like this is going to be available everywhere now, that everyone is going to have their hands in here. You're going to have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Now, there is a lawsuit going on in the state of Florida between that state and the Seminole tribe of Florida about where you can offer this. Does it just have to be on tribal land? Can you have it be a statewide thing? That's a lot of stuff that is over my head. I am a sports talk radio host, not a lawyer, so I'm not going to get into things that I don't think I can properly articulate. But no, there's a court case going on there. How that ends up being decided by federal judges could impact our state or any other state that has tribal gaming. But the important news for right now is, assuming nothing major changes, Prairie Band, among other tribal casinos, will be able to sometime, they hope, and according to the Capital Journal, they hope within 2023 will be able to offer sports wagering in Kansas, in addition to the state-owned casinos.
Continuing on our 580 Sports Talk headlines, let's get to a very brief edition of the
playoffs
roundup. It is the playoff roundup, everybody's favorite segment within a segment where we look at what's happening in the NBA and NHL playoffs. Stanley Cup Final Game 2 is tonight in Las Vegas after the Golden Knights routed the Florida Panthers on Saturday in Game 1 of the series. The Golden Knights have a 1-0 advantage before Game 2 tonight at T-Mobile Arena. The NBA Finals is even at 1 game apiece. Last night, the Miami Heat did what nobody else in these playoffs had done, win a game in Denver. They knock off the Nuggets 111-108 to even the series at 1 game apiece, despite 41 points from Nikola Jokic in the loss. Game 3 is Wednesday as the scene shifts to Miami, where the Heat have lost back-to-back games. They lost Game 4 and Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Nuggets 4-3 away from home, including 2 closeout victories on the road in this postseason.
I'm not worried about the Nuggets. I think the Heat are tough, and you give them credit, and they've been shooting lights out, and they have picked up their superstar, because Jimmy Butler looks tired. He's defending well. His offensive game has really declined since that, and he's, playing on a bum ankle. I get it. But their role players have stepped up big time. You give them credit for the win. You give them credit for shooting well. They are still at a massive talent deficiency compared to the Nuggets.
And how do you make that up? You shoot a crap ton of threes. They have shot 74 three-pointers through the first 2 games of this series. They made 17 of them last night. Really, it was 19 made threes because Kentavious Caldwell-Pope fouled a three-point jump shooter twice. One of Denver's most reliable veterans, one of their smartest defenders, fouled a three-point shooter twice.
Major Wednesday night in Stillwater in early February vibes.
And so 19 three-pointers, essentially. That's Denver made 11. Like when you're plus 24 from behind the arc, and call it plus 21 because Jokic got fouled on a 3. Fine. Plus 21 from behind the arc. That's tough. That's tough to dig your way out from under that. If you're the Nuggets, you have to be but then again, they almost did. If they had made one more 3, just one, the game goes to overtime. Maybe if they had called goaltending correctly late in the game, then Denver would not have needed a 3 to tie and just could have scored and won the game in regulation. I don't know. I feel like I did after the Phoenix series when when Phoenix tied that series at 2, winning both of those road games. It's just a lot has to go right for Denver's opponent, and a lot has to go wrong for Denver to lose by a narrow margin. Like if Denver got blown out, it'd be one thing, but They didn't get blown out. They didn't play great, and their coach isn't happy with them, and the players, to a man, were displeased. But I think they'll bounce back. They'll get at least one in Miami and take home court advantage back. I have a lot of faith in that happening. Unless the Heat are really a 50% shooting team from three, which, hell, I don't know. Maybe they are.
That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll wrap up 580 Sports Talk with the final word next.
Better wrap it up.
Wrapping up this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk with a quick final word, Dan.
The way he rebounded after a rough first inning on Saturday and the way he altered his pitch mix to get good results, Daniel Lynch has my attention. 2 promising starts to start his 2023.
Final word for me, I think it's a good thing that KU is reportedly going to play Wichita State at the T-Mobile Center this year. And I hope it does become a series. In fact, I would love to see KU and K-State play Wichita State every year. Have a traveling governor's trophy kind of thing. It'd be fun. That's what college basketball is supposed to be. Plus, KU should be able to beat Wichita State this time. That does it for this shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk. Royals baseball is up next. We'll join you tomorrow at 3. For Dan, I'm Brendan. Talk to you then.